Welcome to Lesson 10.3, Part A for Algebra 2. This is Mrs. Shiwi, and I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. So if you need a little additional support, let me know in the comments, and I can answer some more questions or maybe make another little video. But the fast version is this. For 10.3a, if you haven't already done your assignment, the first part is turning degrees into radians or radians into degrees. So in order to do that, you need to decide which one you have. So if you have something in degrees, then you need to multiply by the 180 degrees needs to be on the bottom so that your units cancel, and the pi would be on top. Then whatever your number is in the 180, you divide or reduce those, and there will be a pi in your answer. If you have something that's already in radians, whatever that is, radians, then you need to put the pi on the bottom. So the radians, we don't usually write the word radians, but you can write the word radians and then it'll cancel. And the 180 degrees, you'll be left with the degrees. So I kind of think about this degrees, just like when you're converting from feet to inches or anything like that, your units need to cancel out when you multiply so that you're left with the right thing. So that's the fast version. So you have some examples. If you want to, you can pause the video and work those out and check them with your calculator or anything like that. If there's a negative, your answer is going to be negative. Something like this one is negative pi over 3 radians. You don't have to write the word radians, like I said. All right, moving on. That's the first part, and I think most of you got that pretty quick. You can also watch the other video that I posted to get some more examples. Now we're going to move on to the second part of this lesson, which has to do with the unit circle. So the assignment that you had earlier this week was basically to memorize this thing. You need to practice it. If you haven't done it in a few days, pull out a new blank one or draw yourself a circle and see if you can fill in the whole thing without looking. You basically need to know it well enough that if I ask you, well, and you can also do this. If this is a 30-degree angle, then this is pi over 6 radians. You kind of need to know that those two go together. So if I ask you what 60 degrees is, you should be able to tell me that it's pi over 3. And then we also need to know these points. And I'm going to show you how to do that part right now. So if you have your unit circle filled in, this is how we're going to connect this to trig. If you draw, you don't have to draw it on yours, but if you have an angle, a 30-degree angle right here, let's just ask this question. What is the sine of 30 degrees? Well, we did this way back in section 10.1 with right triangles and did opposite over adjacent and all that kind of stuff. And we made a little chart and I said, someday you're going to have to memorize this. That day is here. If you've memorized the unit circle, you've already memorized that. So for this problem, I'm just going to say that opposite is the y coordinate. Across here, adjacent is the x coordinate. And this is a unit circle, so this hypotenuse is length 1. Now for a 30-degree angle, the x-coordinate is square root of 3 over 2. So this is square root of 3 over 2, and this is 1/2 for the y-coordinate. So the sine is opposite over hypotenuse. That would be the y over 1. Well, the y-coordinate is 1/2. So the really fast version of this is if I say what is sine of 30, you tell me this answer. Literally the second number in the point is the answer to sine. Sine is going to be y over 1 every single time. If I said, what is the cosine of 30 degrees? Well, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. That would be x over 1, which is the x-coordinate. So the cosine is always the x-coordinate. So the answer for cosine of 30 is square root of 3 over 2. So let's try a couple of practice problems, and then I'll tell you something else. All right, so the first one, what's the cosine of 225? Well, you're going to take your unit circle, maybe in your brain, maybe on paper still at this point, find 225 degrees and tell me the cosine. Well, here are the points, and the first one is always the cosine, and the second one is the sine. So the answer to this question is negative square root of 2 over 2. That's all you have to do. Let's answer it. Now, what if they ask for a tangent? Here's tangent of 5 pi over 6. Let's go find that unit circle. Where is 5 pi over 6? 5 pi over 6 is here. So we're going to look at this point. And the question was tangent. Well, how do you find tangent of an angle? Opposite over adjacent. So tangent is the y over the x. The sine over the cosine. However you want to think about it. So if I want the tangent of this angle, I need the y-coordinate over the x-coordinate, like divide. So I'm going to do 1/2. I'm going to go to the slide that I'm on here. So the answer to this is 1/2 divided by negative square root of 3 over 2. I got to clean that up, but that's the main idea. If you understand that tangent is the y divided by the x, then we just have to do a little bit of fraction math here. So to divide fractions, we're going to flip and multiply. Keep the top one the same. Bottom one, I'm going to flip that over. And the 2's cancel. So it's 1 over negative square root of 3. But we don't leave we don't leave square roots on the bottom. So the answer is the square root of 3 over 3, and it is negative. You can put that negative sign wherever it goes best. So this is the tangent. So the fast version is cosine is first, sine is second, tangent is sine over cosine. That's how I remember it. This is your x, this is your y, this is y over x. Now, there also are going to be some problems with cosecant, secant, and tangent, right? Oh, cotangent. Cotangent is what I meant to say. So if they ask you for cosecant, well, cosecant is the inverse of sine. So you're going to take whatever the sine coordinate is and flip it over. So if the fraction's 1/2 for sine, then it's going to be 2 over 1 or just 2 for cosecant. Secant is cosine flipped over, 1 over cosine. And cotangent is tangent flipped over. So if I flip this over, then it's cosine over sine. Or you can just think about flip the y coordinate, flip the x coordinate, and this one would be x over y instead of y over x. So that should get you through the second part of the lesson. If you have any more questions, please let me know. I'll be doing this also for lesson 10.3b. I'll do a little short version.